So if you're living in that incident response mode, you got to take your own rest and recovery even as you're going through. It's a marathon, not a sprint, especially if you keep sprinting every other day at this point.
Welcome to Crying Out Cloud, the podcast that will make you laugh, cry, and reconsider all of your cloud security fears. I'm Eden, and this is Amitai.
Hello.
And today we have a very special guest, John Hammond. Welcome, John.
Hi, everyone. Goodness gracious. Hey, thank you for letting me be here with y'all. This is a real treat and looking forward to it.
We're excited. Okay. John Hammond is a globally recognized cybersecurity researcher, educator, and content creator, currently serving on the adversary tactics team at Huntress, where he investigates hacker tradecraft and analyzes real-world threats. Previously an instructor at the Department of Defense Cyber Training Academy, teaching civilian and military members the adversarial mindset, he now showcases live malware demonstrations and exploits to millions on his YouTube channel. So we like to start off our episodes with guests with something we call Cloud Confessions to get to know you a little bit and surprise you with what we found about you on the internet. Are you up for it?
I am totally up for it. I hope there's nothing awful.
We'll kick it off with your dogs. We heard their names are Bam and Pebble. Do they look or behave like the Flintstones characters they're named after?
Oh, not quite like the Flintstones. They are named Bam Bam and Pebbles. Bam Bam is a husky mix, and Pebbles is a hound mix. She's really a Rottweiler mix, but people get a little bit sketchy when, I don't know, they think of a Rottweiler stereotype. But she's a lovable, hey, always just wants cuddles, just always wants to be with you. So Bam Bam and Pebbles, I think we've had for 6 years or so now, but love them to death. They're great.
So you have, apparently, according to the internet, some early roots developing video games. We were curious, which project are you most proud of?
Well, honestly, those goes a ways back. I felt like, hey, when I was still trying to get started with computers and with technology, that was fun because it looked like the cool, I don't know, thing that you could go study and, hey, have a whole lifelong career for, and like making video games. Just as a kid, I would love to play on the Game Boy or the GameCube or anything like that. I had found way back when there was an adventure maker. That was the name of the software that was kind of just drag and drop. You could get into some Visual Basic if you wanted to learn a little bit, but it was mostly just kind of clicking, navigating through scenes of identification or finding things in a game, not like, oh, hey, a full-blown RPG adventure kind of thing. Eventually, I found I guess what's called Game Maker, and I had a whole lot of fun with that, just figuring out how to make a platformer. I had a silly one that I just called an adventure, where I'd, make a little square block, jump around the screen, and go through different levels that we could create. And it was small and cutesy, but I felt like, hey, that's the foundation for just sort of the curiosity, experimentation, and then passion and love of learning for all things computers and cybersecurity these days.
Yeah, I think video games are a great way to be introduced at a young age and probably way later to anything related to computers.
So we read that you attended the Coast Guard Academy. Is there a military routine or habit that you picked up on and kept in your like civilian other life?
Ooh, super good question. I wish, maybe it sounds funny to say, I wish there were some more of the routines and regiments that did stick with me. Yeah, at least the strict bedtime and taps and reveille to wake up in the morning at a proper time. That did not stick with me, and I've kind of fallen to the wayside on, oh, just whatever sleep schedule happens to come with incident response and blue team defense work. But I guess if I could scrounge for an answer there is one trick that I realize I have not left. It's real tendency to make sure my clothes are folded in the like prim and proper way, and will always be folding clothes and folding laundry, just permanent crease, perfect stuff.
Okay, this is our question we ask everyone. It's a very introspective question. If you were a vulnerability, what type would you be?
I would think I could be an arbitrary right primitive because I'm thinking like, oh, a little bit of, I like some web security stuff. I think of local file inclusion because like, oh wow, that's just like a fun thing to drop some etc shadow, etc password file, whatever. When I'm crafting like either capture the flag games or learning environments for cybersecurity and exploits and vulnerabilities and all, I like to try and turn that on its head to do something a little bit different. So arbitrary right feels like, hey, here's a one-shot opportunity, and how could I still coerce the file system into something that could give and mean for more access? But pointing that at myself with a weird sort of mirror, I do think, and I'm cognizant of, hey, I'm totally influenced by whatever is happening out on social media, whatever ambulance that the world is chasing now for cybersecurity and industry news, and having a silly YouTube channel and everything that I'm up to. Yeah, I'm totally interested in what does the world think, so that will point me in a direction. And I guess maybe that's an arbitrary right on my brain.
Social media plugged into your brain and changing the way you think.
I'm not happy about that. That sounds worse than it is.
I think I have that same problem though. So
I think many people do these days.
are you ready for the big real questions?
Let's dive in.
All right. So in your work, you've talked about how threat actors are now operating like super efficient startup companies, like from a business perspective. So from what you see at Huntress and, previously and in your other work, what sort of business practices are cybercriminals adopting that have been useful for them, that have made life, I guess, easier for them or more profitable for them? And I think the follow-up question is, how can we make things harder for them? How can we disrupt that? How can we take away those advantages from them?
Well, yeah, we've been, and I know I certainly have been trying to fight this sort of, I don't want to say stigma or stereotype, but there's an easy perception that whatever adversary or threat actor or hacker, if we're using, I don't know, whatever the media term kind of labels on this thing, knowing that they're thinking that that entity is some lone kid in a basement, hacker hoodie on, projector pointed at the face like a Hollywood movie makes it out to be. I think the reality now is that, look, cybercrime and the enemies that we're up against are organized cybercrime. And it's not just one entity, it's multiple. It's it's a lot of people. And they have genuinely this sort of like chain of command or organizational org chart, hierarchy of who does what, where, and when, and like even across different departments. We see out on the dark web crazy shenanigans where folks have like a certain kind of sales team, they have a certain kind of support team, they do their branding, they have a go-to-market strategy, and that's crazy. We see that certainly for like ransomware-as-a-service groups and affiliates. And InfoStealer malware logs are trying to beat the drum the very same way, and that they have this persona they go online with. A wild thing that I got a chance to work on, I think, zooms out of maybe threat actors and cybercrime as we tend to think in the really traditional cookie cutter InfoSec mentality of, oh yeah, ransomware actors, InfoStealer malware, and like crypto miners, blah, blah, blah. Supply chain threats here and there. We tend to just come up with some off the cuff. But I think for what the real world sees the most of, it's not the nerds and geeks like us, it's mom and dad or brothers and sisters or grandma and grandpa who can receive these phone calls that could very well just be scams or emails in their inbox or random text messages from something impersonating something else, and it's a lie, it's deception, it's fraud, it's a scam. So I had gotten some time together with Jim Browning, some other folks that are a wider lens of looking at scammers, not just threat actors or hackers in that bubble that we put ourselves in, to say, honestly, the lines are pretty blurry here, and they're still cyber criminals too. So I think in that community of the scam bait side, there is a lot more acceptance of, can we poke back? Can we waste their time? Can we call them? Could we see if we could get in their way? Could we stop or interrupt a scam? And I'm trying to figure out, okay, can we put that politely in the traditional InfoSec and threat actor way? Because we do need to fight back threat actors, cyber criminals, and hackers, no matter what way we bucket them.
At the very least, waste attackers' time, waste their money, maybe demotivate them.
At least give them a bad
Yeah, make them want to quit.
I've been trying to, hey, bring this sword and shield of education, just making sure folks are aware of what these attacks look like, what these techniques, these vulnerabilities, what this tradecraft could very well be, and showing folks so that they see it and they can recognize it and they can identify it. And if they are ever caught with it in the wild, they know what to look for. And then, yeah, they could get that sort of awareness. Ooh, why don't I mess with this adversary? Why don't I make it harder for them? Because I'm on to their game.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I think you really have a tact for taking dense, low-level technical topics and make them feel kind of like a detective story. Like they're something that anyone could tap into. What prepared you to maybe also be a engaging storyteller, but also to want to tell these stories?
Well, a little bit of a crash course. I felt like the way that I learned a lot of things within cybersecurity, whether it's writing some code or scripting or programming or going through capture the flags to learn, to get smart and cut your teeth on this thing, was online, was on YouTube. It was finding tutorials or video walkthroughs or demonstrations of other people showing me how to build this thing so that I could do that just as well. And I felt like that's how I learned, and that was really cool. So I wanted to test myself. Could I try to teach this sort of thing, whether it was just original programming at the very start or even walking through those challenges or those exercises to get better? That has been a lot of fun because it shows the raw process, oftentimes long form, and it shows every piece of the puzzle. It shows you running into walls. It shows you troubleshooting. It shows you debugging. It shows you trying to figure out what's the next move with a little bit of critical thinking and intuition. And I think the methodology is maybe in the beginning of this, I don't know, internet career that I found myself in, people seem to like, because it shows them like, hey, there are some stumbles, there are some struggles, but there is real value, and you can see the fireworks go off at the end and look at all the things you've learned along the way. I just thought, I want to show you the process. I want to show you the real thing, not just the final, oh, here's the answers, check the box solution at the very end. There is a balancing act with that. And I think today, maybe in modern 2026 times, the appetite for that on the audience has shifted. I think they do want sometimes the real speed run answer, or whatever news headline will kind of lead a lot more eyes to it. Sort of a regurgitated, rebroadcasted, one shot, short form TikTok. Yeah. I'm still dancing with that because I feel like, hey, that's not valuable. It's just regurgitating and rebroadcasting. But maybe you all, even as creator folks of the podcast here, see that just the very same. The long form attention, especially for the real explanations of something, it's hard to find it amongst the algorithm overlords. Yeah. So
I think AI is making it a lot harder as well. Like TikTok was making it harder, AI is making it 1,000 times harder for people to concentrate because they expect Claude to summarize for them.
But it's interesting because you're describing that, and then you were also able, I think a lot of people might have that same intention, which is a good intention, but then you're able to really build a following. And I was laughing with Amitai. I feel like being famous online at this point is like reserved for like fashion people or like gaming influencers. How do you think you were able to break through in the cyber world?
I hope what has worked and made that at least something of what it is today is just sort of an authentic, genuine representation of, hey, I'm a person right here alongside you. And I don't know everything. I'm not an expert. I don't want to be touted as some, cybersecurity expert. The field is too big. Cybersecurity, this industry is so huge. There's no way that everyone can be an expert or anyone can be an expert because there's so much out there. So I like to admit, and I'm happy to fall on my sword, hey, there are some things that my knowledge has some gaps. So I want to learn and I want to explore and I want that curious discovery as like a, I don't know, tag team joint effort, battle buddy with the viewers. And I think that has had some good traction because it shows that, hey, you're human and we're doing this thing together.
Is there something you feel like with that clout, if you will, there's something that you think is like the most important for you to share with them, like more than one story or one lesson or something kind of maybe today in the way adversaries behave that you really think is important to share?
Look, as I mentioned, the whole industry, cybersecurity, cloud security, web security, application security, memory, whatever, all these different facets, because there are so many of them, it's really on you to tune into what do you like? What do you enjoy the most? What's the most fun for you? And where's your passion? Is it cryptography? Is it understanding more of those AI aspects? It doesn't matter what it is, and there isn't like some strict path or an A to B career ladder. Uh, I think there really just needs to be you choosing a passion that you are obsessed with and you're willing to do every day, all the time. Because I think for especially a whole lot of students, because I do interact with practitioners active in the industry and students that are eager and want to jump into the party here, they're always asking those questions of like, oh, what do I need to do next? How do I do this? What's the best thing for me to do? Honestly, you get to make that call. It's totally personal, but I would just probably give the advice of, look, there's going to be a time where you turn this thing into your job and it's going to be work. So you'll find the balancing act between, can you keep doing this every day? And can you keep putting in the after hours work? And if you ever hit the wall and you think, man, I don't really want to go do this work stuff, you want to stave off that feeling for as long as you can. So make sure it is something that you love and you can always jump back into it.
So I think that does tie into another question we wanted to ask you, which is, I think you've been candid about how like the always on hustle of cybersecurity work can be very tiring and lead to burnout. I think I've personally experienced this over the past few months with Team PCP's ongoing efforts to ruin my day. So I think my question is, what do you do to deal with that?
I don't think I have a good answer because I'm kind of feeling the same thing. I know there's always already been this sort of hustle culture in cybersecurity, and I think that has been like amplified even louder with the advent of AI and artificial intelligence, just like you alluded to. I like the phrasing that we've been using kind of with the folks that I run with of like, oh, whether or not we chase the ambulance, whether or not this is one that we need to get everybody rallied up for, Avengers assemble and dive into this thing, give it our full attention, devote how much time to it. But then there's going to be another one that pops up and another, and these stockpile. And it's like, shoot, yeah, I need to sleep. The burnout kicks in like crazy, and I think it has now never than it has ever before. So I am trying to take breaks amongst and like during that evolution, not after, because when we keep pushing it and keep postponing, it's like, oh, I'll do it after. Once we're done, once the event is settled and situated. Okay, that's apparently not going to happen now. So if you're living in that incident response mode, you got to take your own rest and recovery even as you're going through. It's a marathon, not a sprint, especially if you keep sprinting every other day at this point.
When you're teaching, because like you'll be teaching on online content in academia, military, private courses, conferences, you name it, what kind of adjustments do you make for each audience to be an effective educator? And what do you think also in this AI age where like you can ask AI anything, right? And like see what it tells you. The idea of kind of dedicated learning rather than learning on the go. Is there still space for it like there was before?
Yeah, for the first half of that question, I wonder if my approach is good, bad, or ugly. I don't know if anyone will have some sort of different opinions, but I, the reality is I feel like I try to keep the presentation style the very same, whether it's online or with some big professional stuffy military govy thing. Maybe that's bad. Maybe some folks have a different opinion, but I feel like it is, again, getting to that core of like, hey, is this a genuine, authentic, friendly, amicable person and a human being that I'm interacting with? So if, sure, I'm talking to, I don't know, some 5-star general, who, whatever, I'm of course going to be like, hey, thank you, sir. Of course, ma'am. Like, without a doubt, Mr., Mrs., try to keep the formalities and the like correctness that I should. But I do want to be, whenever possible, like, hey, how are you doing, man? What's going on in your world these days, dude? hey, Mrs., are you doing all right? What are you worried about, and how can I help? And those, I don't know if disarm folks is the right word, but maybe sometimes they're just surprised to be like, how come this person is being so real with me? And that, I think, really just goes sometimes above and beyond in those scenarios where, oh, we're stuck in this sort of strict, stuffy, regimented thing. Hey, we have to make room for that curiosity, that innovation, and the passion, because sometimes that doesn't always work in all environments. All right, well, let's just open this a little bit more so that that can bloom and blossom in the environments, because that's what matters. That's what's important.
Back to YouTubing. We were curious. Um, there are many discussions online about how people who publish on YouTube run into problems with like the community guidelines and with like the algorithm taking down or demonetizing their video because they're working on something dangerous or offensive. So I was wondering if you've ever run into cases like that when it comes to cyber, like when you're talking about like how to hack something from a defensive perspective, and then someone says like, or the algorithm says, no, you can't do this on YouTube. You can't teach people how to hack.
I have somehow gone through unscathed. I do know of many other creators or folks out online that are trying to share education, and trying to figure out the right way to put cybersecurity stuff to make it sexy, to make it cool, to make it, oh, some headline, something that folks will click into. And maybe there's the balancing act there, because I think mine and a lot of my work has started with the roots of learning environment, practice war game. This is a sandbox that we control, we have authority over. Maybe it's a capture the flag. It's gamified. So it's not to say big title and thumbnail of like steal your neighbor's Wi-Fi, hack the coffee shop dispenser. Like I know it's sometimes, yeah, then a wondering question for whatever powers that be online in those platforms to say, oh, we should take that down because that looks like against our terms of service or policies. I think as my even maybe beginning material was the start of in learning in these safe sandbox environments. Now I'm talking about like real threat actors, real ransomware groups, real cybercrime. We're looking on the dark web for real malware and the illegal stuff that they do. I don't know if I just set enough of, hey, this is the backing, this is the context, this is genuine security research without any ill intent, but I know of other folks that have unfortunately been struck by it. I think it takes a communication line with YouTube or with the platforms to say like, hey, I'm sorry, I think this might have been a misunderstanding, or if you need me to repackage or reframe the title or something, we can do that. But somehow, I have not been burned by it.
Maybe
Amazing.
that would mean that you'd be very good at prompting the new Fable model into not going into panic mode and dropping you into Opus.
Yeah, should we crack open the can of worms for AI? How are you all using artificial intelligence these days? Is it in your professional world? Is it in your personal world? Are you in Claude or Codex or whatever all the time now?
I think it's fair to say that we are. Yeah, we wanted to ask you a bit about using AI in the context of threat hunting. And I think we think a lot about like both how defenders and attackers are using AI. Personally, I've been using AI a lot to script things, using AI a lot to collect data from very diverse sources and sort of do things that I wouldn't necessarily have time to do otherwise. And while I'm using AI, I'm thinking about like from a security perspective, like what if someone else was using this and was doing this in a way that might be dangerous? How could I help them protect themselves? Like that's also something that's sort of going through my head. But yeah, like I think we're using it a lot.
Yeah, I've been having a ton of fun kind of playing with a lot of the different ideas or the problems that we'll try to tackle in cybersecurity with an AI model, and with whatever LLM robot that I could kind of have just spinning off on the side. Um, Forgive me, I hate to keep poking at the YouTube thing, but I had a recent video where we showcased, hey, building some sort of engine, this autonomous scaffolding and loop, so that we have virtual machines that are spun up, and sort of their own little range, and then the robots, codecs could drive it to be able to do some security research, at least downloading free trials of real genuine software, try to crack it open, disassemble it, look for bugs, do both static testing and dynamic analysis of like, how does this app run and can we find vulnerabilities? And the coolest, craziest thing is when I'm hands off keyboard, and it works, and it's still working, and it's always on. And maybe I get a little Slack pop up that's like, hey, yep, we found a high severity vulnerability. Hey, here's a critical. Oh, here's a medium for you. And like that is blowing my mind. And it now makes me start to spin of like, wow, could I use this to manage honey tokens, honeypots, canaries, deception? Could I use this to do some of that threat hunting, to rip through analysis, to do initial triage like a security operations center individual might do? It's like, how can I start to explore these different problems in a way that I don't need to be driving? It's kind of crazy. But it's exciting. It's fun. I do feel like AI has given you a little bit of a superpower, but there is the wondering of like, okay, do we trust this thing just running naked outside of its cage, whatever it might do, in production? Do we want that?
Right.
But I think to your actual question, apologies, was like, what about threat actors? Are cyber criminals taking advantage of this thing too? I think the answer is yes. The short answer is yes, but probably the longer answer is like not in the way that they could be. I think it's still supplementing their development of maybe one-off scripts or some staging deterministically that they'll drop into environments to use kind of ad hoc. But I haven't seen the non-deterministic AI-powered command and control or AI-controlled implant or beacon that is funneling out and doing what it might do without any human steering it. I think there is going to be a point where we are up against that, and that's going to be a nightmare. All the buzzwords that I know we were screaming about for moving at machine speed, or the timeline is compressed, where, oh, dwell time and impact is in seconds, not hours or days or weeks. And it's like, yeah, we are probably going to get to that tidal wave.
So do you think that at the moment, like if we had to describe it as like an AI arms race between attackers and defenders, do you feel that currently defenders are sort of winning there just because attackers aren't necessarily leveraging this as much as they could?
Yeah, I think I am glass half full optimistic right now.
A fun game I play in my head is like there are all sorts of benchmarks out there right now for like finding vulnerabilities using AI, development using AI. And I sometimes think about like what benchmarks would threat actors benefit from, like using AI to evade EDR, using AI to obfuscate in a way that is not possible to deobfuscate using another AI. So not benchmarks that I would implement, but fun to think about.
Yeah. It's weird no-go zones for YouTube videos in my mind.
That'll get you up against the community guidelines.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. John, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Well, hey, thank you all. I hope I wasn't rambling for too long, but honestly, it was awesome to hang out with you. And look, I've been catching the Crying Out Cloud podcast whenever I see you all across the internet airwaves. So genuinely, it was a real honor to be invited to be with you all. And I hope we had some fun together.
We definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you. Well, hopefully we'll get to mash up again soon and meet you in person too. Okay, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and share a link to the podcast, but not your cloud keys. And as always, if your cloud security strategy is making you cry, don't worry, just cry out loud.